What's up, Knights of Vex, and welcome to the Datacron Set 17 review, where we will be going over the brand new Datacron set that's going to be farmable now in the current conquest. And I want to get this video out before you guys start farming those nodes and going really hard with all those Datacron material. I'm going to give you guys an initial impression of what my opinion is on the new set, what to look for in terms of stats, the level 3s, the level 6s, and the character level 9s, and what I think you guys should be farming. Now, over the course of Grand Arena and Territory Wars, these might change based off testing and everything, but based on what I've seen, my own initial testing, and from just looking at all these crazy abilities, I think this is going to be the best way to go in terms of farming. So we're going to go over everything, but before we do, just a reminder, guys, hit that sub button. Really helps the channel out tremendously, and I appreciate everyone that's supported me so far. So with that being said, let's get into the character stats of the new Datacron set. Alright, so starting with stats, I have broken down each category into 3 separate sections, which I've included as strong, decent, and bad. And then at the end, we have a little special thing called OP, which is for overpowered. And there's some very overpowered character level 9. But just for mostly the stats, level 3s and the level 6s, I've broken them down into strong, decent, and bad. So in my opinion, for the new set, the strong ones are going to be defense, armor pen, resistance pen, potency, tenacity, and crit damage. Defense is just a nightmare to get through. Any team with high defense is just so annoying. It's an incredibly strong stat, and I think it's going to be really, really important this set. Then armor pen is going to help us get through those very high defensive teams. So armor pen is back on the table. And then we haven't seen resistance penetration in a long time. I personally think resistance penetration is really, really strong. I personally found it really useful for teams with special damage. So we're going to be able to get through all that high defense with teams where we have special damage and not armor pen. So it is broken down into different stats, not just defense penetration. It's armor pen and resistance pen. They're both going to be very strong. Potency I find to be a very strong stat. Landing debuffs is very, very important in Galaxy of Heroes, and having an increased potency just makes certain counters way, way easier. So potency is going to be very strong as well. And to counteract that tenacity, guys, not being able to land debuffs on teams that super high tenacity can change a counter. Like, for example, if you have your CLS modded for extreme tenacity and General Skywalker doesn't land any daze, you're going to win. But if you're going to see General Skywalkers with increased potency, it's going to make it very hard to get that counter unless you have high tenacity. So that's just an example of those stats. And then lastly, crit damage is just very, very strong. Able to blow up your opponents, just having that ramping crit damage, super, super strong. So those are all in the strong category. For decent, I am putting crit avoidance because it is pretty situational, where crit avoidance is very strong, but I do think the other stats are going to be way more important in this set, so I'm putting it in the decent category. And the reason I'm putting Hellsteel in the bad category is because I don't think there are any teams that are in the new set that benefit very great with Hellsteel compared to the other stats. So that's why I'm putting Hellsteel in the bad. Normally in other sets, for like if you have a Lord Vader team or a Rey team that's going to be very strong with Hellsteel, they have like their bonuses, then I'll put Hellsteel up higher. But for this set, I don't think the factions with the bonuses benefit enough with Hellsteel, so I'm putting it in the bad category. With that, we're going to go to the characters level 3, starting with Darkside. Moving to Darkside level 3, guys, I have broken it down into strong, decent, and bad again. And starting with the strong, I think one that's going to be really, really good for Darkside teams is whenever Darkside allies uses a special ability, they gain evasion up, health steal up, and health up for 2 turns. I mean, guys, those are very strong stats. Evasion up, having your opponent be able to not hit you, incredibly, incredibly annoying. Health steal up can be very helpful for if you're getting low and you need to heal up, or even the health up, increasing your max health. That's a very strong stat for a level 3. So I think that is going to be one of the stronger level 3s for Darkside. Coming in for the second strong one, I'm going with Darkside allies gain 10% turn meter whenever an ally or enemy is defeated. So this one is going to be strong, I think, for both offense and defense. I typically like the ones where they include whenever an ally is defeated on defense, because your opponent's going to have to keep destroying or killing your allies, which is going to benefit the rest of your team. So I really like these types of Datacrons for defense mostly. So whenever a ally or enemy is defeated, your team's going to get more turn meter, going to make them take more turns, which is very strong. That's why I'm putting it into the strong category. And then next up for decent, I have whenever dark side allies resist the debuff, they recover 2% health and protection. The reason I'm putting this in decent is because it could help with some of the banner recovery in Grand Arena, but by no means do I think you should go for this one over the other ones, so that's why I'm putting it in decent and not strong. And then for bad, I've never been a fan of this one where whenever dark side allies are evaded by an enemy, they gain accuracy up for 2 turns and inflict invasion down for 2 turns on the enemy, which can't be evaded. So I really don't think this is worth it compared to the other abilities. I do know that evasion up is included in the level 3 and this could counteract it, but I still don't think it's worth it in the long term. So putting that in the bad. And then the last one in the bad category, I'm putting at the beginning of their turn, dark side allies gain 25% chance to dispel all debuffs on themselves. I'm not a big fan of 25%. That's not a very good odd chance. And I know in some situations, if you get good RNG, it could help you if your team's getting stun locked or they're applying a lot of debuffs, but I don't like that 25% chance of being that. It's not consistent enough for my liking, so I'm putting it in the bad card category. Now we completed dark side, we're going to move to light side level 3. Moving on to light side level 3, guys, we have the light side level 3s are way stronger than the dark side for this set specifically. They pretty much copied a couple of the other ones from the current set we have now, but moved it to light side. So I think the first strong one is going to be the first side, a light side tank allies defeated, revive them with 100% health, reset their cooldowns, and they gain a bonus turn. Limit once per battle. So guys, we have 2 Galactic Legend allies that are tanks. We got Leia and we got Jedi Master Luke. That is an extremely strong mechanic. Extremely, extremely strong. Have to get through them down one time, they gotta get through them again. Very annoying. Even for a raid team, if they have like L3 or any other tank, you're gonna have to get through that tank again. Very, very strong level 3 for a light side. So absolutely going in the strong category. The second one is going to be when light side allies use a special ability, they gain 15% turn meter. This one's strong now for dark side. It's going to be strong for light side. Anything that gives you more turn meter means more turns is going to be very, very strong in the game. Turn meter is one of the most important mechanics. So having that on the level 3 is just going to make your teams even stronger. I recommend these two for offense and defense. The third strongest one that I'm going to go with is the first time each light side ally is defeated, remaining light side allies gain 15% offense and 20 speed stacking for the rest of the encounter. This level 3 I'm going to be recommending for defense, guys. You don't want your allies to die on offense. You need banners in Grand Arena. Your enemies want to kill your units. That's going to ramp up your team's damage and speed. So this is the Datacron that I am personally recommending for defense for most of your light side characters if they don't have a tank. It is such a strong Datacron. Offense and speed are the most important stats in the game. Definitely strong. I recommend all 3 of these, but this one specifically for defense. Then in the decent category, we have whenever light side allies gain a buff, they recover 2% health and protection. I put this in the decent category is because anything with health and protection recovery I find strong because it helps you get those banners back in Grand Arena. Sometimes it makes a difference in certain battles, so it's going to be decent, but I still don't think it's as strong as the other 3. And then the other one I have is decent is whenever light side allies use a basic ability, they gain speed up for 2 turns. Speed is very strong, taking more turns is very good, but I still don't think that this one outweighs the other 3, so it's going to go in the decent category. And in my opinion, there aren't any bad light side level 3s this set. So that is going to be the light side level 3 review. And now we're going to move on to the level 6s. Alright guys, I got to keep moving my webcam because the texts are way too long and I don't want to interfere with you guys seeing it. So anyway, we're going to start with Rogue One for the first level 6 review. And obviously, typically the wordy one is going to be the strong one, and that's the case for this set. The strong one for Rogue One is at the start of battle, all Rogue One allies gain 100% max health and max protection, 60% offense and 20 speed, and if Jyn Erso is an ally, she assists whenever another Rogue One ally uses an ability. If all allies were Rogue One at the start of battle, whenever an enemy attacks out of turn, expose them for 1 turn, which cannot be evaded or resisted, and all Rogue One allies gain speed up for 1 turn and recover 30% health and protection. Guys, that is extremely strong. It makes them super survivable, gives them a ton of offense and speed, and then you're going to be able to assist and expose them out of turn. It's very strong. Rogue One might be making a comeback this year, or this season, for Grand Arena, and I'm very excited for it. This is absolutely the one you should be going for. If you can farm it and can get it, this is the go-to. Now, with that said, going into the decent one, if you guys are having a hard time rolling that level 6, I think the next one you're going to want to go with is at the start of each turn, if non-Galactic Legend Rogue One allies have 50% or more turn meter, damage they receive is reduced by 75% until the end of next turn. This cron for any faction is always good. I don't know any other set where we had this one where it wasn't strong. It has saved me so many times with the current set using General Skywalker. I was able to take out Rey. I was able to take out Queen Amidala. Rogue One is going to be very hard to take down if they have this level 6. I still think the other one's going to be way better, but if you're having trouble with those rerolls and not getting it right away, I think this one's going to be your second place for the set. And then next up for a decent one, I think whenever a Rogue One ally deals damage to an enemy and no other enemy is blinded, inflict blind for 2 turns on target enemy, which cannot be resisted. Inflicting blind is strong. It makes them miss an ability, so not going to be as good as the other two, but it's still decent in this set, and I think if you can't get these two, this will be the third place one. And then the other two, in my opinion, guys, are pretty bad. Whenever Rogue One allies are revived, they recover 25% protection, gain 25% turn meter, and reduce their cooldowns by 1. Guys, you're not reviving them that often. Unless they go down and Jin revives them, I don't think it's worth it. I don't think this one is going to outweigh any of the ones we've mentioned previously. It's going to go in the bad category. And then the next one I have in bad is whenever a Rogue One ally defeats an enemy, they take a bonus turn. I don't think with this set, with all the ones we've listed previously, none of them are going to be worse than the one we just put. You're going to want to go for the wordy one in the decent category. Getting a bonus turn does not make a big difference in this set, so that's going to be the Rogue One review. Next up, we're going to go over Nightsister Level 6s, guys, and again, the wordy one is going to be the strong one. The first one's going to be whenever an enemy is inflicted with defense down, reduce their max protection by 5%, stacking to 50. Whenever a Nightsister ally gains Foresight or Stealth, all Nightsister allies gain 5% turn meter and critical damage stacking until the end of the encounter. Whenever an enemy attacks out of turn, all Nightsister allies recover 40% health and protection, gain Retribution for 1 turn, and gain 50% turn meter. Now, guys, I think this one is going to be more beneficial, personally, to the Morgan Elsbeth team, which not a lot of people are going to have at the moment, but you will maybe towards the end of the set. I do think the last sentence is going to be strong for the regular Nightsisters, but the first two I don't think are going to make that big of a difference. But whenever an enemy attacks out of turn, they recover 40% health and protection and gain Retribution. That's going to be strong for a regular Nightsister Cron. I really do think that's going to be really, really tough, but mostly I think it's going to benefit the Morgan Elsbeth Nightsister team. Which brings me to my next one. It's going to be whenever Nightsister allies inflict a debuff on an enemy during their turn, they deal bonus damage equal to 10% of that enemy's max health. So this one is going to benefit more of the Talzin lineup because they are applying a ton of debuffs with Plague, and that's just going to ramp up that bonus damage based off their max health. I think that one's going to be very, very strong, and if you guys have 2 Nightsister teams, I would try to get one of each. I do think that's going to be your best option. Then for decent, I have the one where I mentioned previously is very, very good. I don't think it's going to outweigh the other two, but if non-Galactic Legend Nightsister allies have 50% or more turn meter, damage they receive is reduced by 75% until the end of their end of the turn. Strong with every faction, guys. It's very good. I don't think it's better than the other two, but if you can roll it and you don't have any more reroll mats, it'll still have its use. And then I think the other one, this one's going to be decent. Whenever Nightsister allies use a special ability on their turn, they gain Repose for 2 turns. I'm not sure how this is going to work. I don't know if they keep a buff, but typically Nightsister allies can get attack out of turn with Talzin second special. I know when they have the revive, you do a basic, they're attacking out of turn. I just don't know how it works with the revive. We're going to have to test that out, but it's still going to go in the decent category, and I think it's still going to be not bad. And then the only bad one I think for the Nightsister one is going to be whenever Nightsister allies critically hit an enemy during their turn, that ally gains 10% offense stacking for 2 turns. I typically don't like this cron for any faction. I don't think stacking offense for 2 turns makes a big difference. And compared to the other ones, there are way stronger options this set. That one's going to go in the bad category. And that's going to conclude the Nightsister review. Alright, moving on to Jedi Level 6s. I do think we have 2 clear ones that are very strong. First one being, at the start of the encounter and at the end of their turn, Jedi allies gain 1 stack of Retaliate, max 3 for 3 turns, which cannot be copied, dispelled, or prevented. And what Retaliate is whenever an ally is damaged by an attack, deal 20% of that damage receives per stack to the attacker. This damage cannot defeat enemies. So, if your Jedi has 3 stacks of Retaliate, you're going to reflect 60% of that damage back to the enemy, which is going to cause them to take damage, which I think is going to be very strong. We're going to have to test it. I do think it's going to be strong on defense, but reflecting damage back to your enemy means less banners for them, which is I'm a fan of because we want to try to strip banners in Grand Arena. So I do think that's going to be a very strong level 6, and I do recommend it, but I do think this second one's going to be definitely way more impactful, and that is whenever Jedi allies use a special ability during their turn, they stun the target enemy for 1 turn, which cannot be evaded or resisted. Guys, that is such a strong ability and mechanic. Jedi allies have a ton of special abilities, and this stun cannot be evaded or resisted. Jedis are going to be very strong this set, and I'm very excited because I've had very bad experiences with Jedi in the previous couple sets, so I'm happy they're going to be strong again. I think that one's going to be your go-to, guys. That's going to be the one you're going to want to go for. If not that one, go for the one that has Retaliate. And then the next one we have for Decent, whenever Jedi allies start their turn with at least 2 debuffs that can be dispelled, they have a 65% chance to dispel all debuffs in themselves. And the only reason I'm putting that in Decent is because if you're going against a Lord Vader, and I've had a ton of times where the debuffs just take them down, you have a 65% chance to cleanse, which is a lot better than 25%, so this one's going to be more situational, but I do think it can be very strong, so it's going to be in the Decent category. But it's still not as good as the other two. Then the other one we have is whenever Jedi allies stun an enemy, they gain speed up, offense up for 2 turns, and inflict exposed for 2 turns at the end of that turn, which cannot be evaded. Again, I don't think it's as strong as the top 2, but I do think it's going to be good when you have a stun on your team. So Ayla, Jedi Knight Luke, ton of Jedi Knight Revan has a stun. Can be strong, situational, but don't feel bad if you don't get the other 2. This one's still pretty decent. And I think the only bad one in this category is whenever Jedi allies grant a buff to another ally, that ally gains 10% turn meter. Limit once per turn per ally. Don't think this is very worth it. There are way other stronger crons this set. Don't recommend it for Jedi. And that concludes the Jedi review. Next faction, guys, we got Imperial Remnant, and they definitely got a couple strong ones in my opinion. Definitely got a couple strong ones. First one being whenever an allied Imperial Remnant ally, or whenever an allied or Imperial Remnant uses a special ability, they gain alert for 2 turns. Whenever an enemy is inflicted with a stack of light, all Imperial Remnant allies gain 10% turn meter, 5% crit chance, and crit damage stacking until the end of the counter. I think this one's going to be specifically good on the Captain Enoch team, not for the regular Dark Trooper Moff Gideon team, but this is probably going to be your go-to for that one. Not a lot of people are going to have that team farmed up or geared, so you're not going to have to worry about this one if you don't have that team. But the next one, which I think is going to be beneficial for both Imperial Remnant teams, is whenever a debuff on an enemy expires, Imperial Remnant allies gain 2% offense, doubled if that debuff was dispelled until the end of the counter. So guys, I'm going to have a weird theory craft that I want to test out, and this is whenever a debuff on an enemy expires. So think of a Lord Vader team. He's doing a ton of debuffs, right? And you have an Imperial Remnant ally on your team, they're going to be gaining 2% offense stacking until the end of the battle. So I'm wondering if you put a Death Trooper or a Dark Trooper Moff Gideon or an Imperial TIE Pilot, what their offense is going to be like with all that stacking. It could be able to scale incredibly. So I'm going to want to test that out, but that's going to be a very strong cron once we figure out what works best. Definitely get one of those if you guys farm it. And then what I think is going to be very strong for me personally is whenever an Imperial Remnant ally falls below 100% health, they gain a bonus turn. I like this, guys. Bonus turns are very strong, especially on defense. You're going to be wanting killing the whole team. They're going to be going below 100% health, and bonus turns is just going to stop you and your plan. Going to cause big interference in your strategy. So I do think the falling below 100% health is very strong. Going into the decent category, we have whenever an Imperial Remnant ally is critically hit, they gain 100% critical avoidance and critical chance for 2 turns. This is pretty strong. Critical avoidance is a good mechanic because they can't crit you, but I don't think it's better than any of the three that I just mentioned, so it's going to go in the decent category. And then the one that I think is bad is whenever an Imperial Remnant ally staggers or stuns an enemy, they deal bonus damage equal to 35% of that enemy's max health, which cannot be evaded. I just don't think this one outweighs any of the other ones we have mentioned previously, and for that reason, I'm putting it in the bad category. And that will wrap up the Imperial Remnant faction. Alright, so now we're going to move on to the character level 9 abilities, and I'm going to start with the bad category, and I think these ones are definitely the ones that you're not going to want to get. And that's going to be the Asajj Ventress one, where whenever an enemy is stunned, Asajj Ventress takes a bonus turn. You're not going to want to get this, guys. Not worth it. Yes, there are a lot of Nightsister stuns, like with Daka, but I don't think Asajj taking bonus turns is going to outweigh the other one, so definitely bad. And then, I do not think the Nightsister Spirit one is good. Whenever Nightsister Spirit gains Foresight, they also gain 20% turn meter and protection up. I don't think that is going to be very, very worth it for if you're going to farm a Nightsister level 9. Don't recommend it, guys. And then for the Cassian one, he gains 5% max health and protection per relic amplifier, and damage they receive is decreased by 15%. I don't think this is going to be worth it, guys. There are way better Rogue One level 9s that you're going to want to get. Cassian's going to stay in the bad category for this set. And then, I don't know if this is going to be controversial, but I don't think the Dark Trooper one is going to be very strong because it states whenever Dark Trooper critically hits an enemy, he gains 10% critical damage, defense penetration, and offense stacking for 200% until the end of the battle. Now, Dark Trooper cannot critically hit unless it's the AoE, and he's mostly going to be doing offense damage with his basic. So, I don't think this is going to make a big difference in terms of battles, and there's going to be way stronger level 9s for the Imperial Remnant. The only way I could see this maybe being strong is that if you have the possible Lord Vader debuff stacking offense, and then your Dark Trooper goes out when they cleanse and does an AoE and kills them, but I don't know if that's going to be very... We have to playtest that. I'm going to put it in the bad category for now. And that wraps up all the bad character level 9s. Moving on to the decent category, guys, I listed a couple here. And the first one I'm going to mention is the Master Qui-Gon. And I don't think the Master Qui-Gon is... It's not bad. I just don't think it's super game-changing like the previous Padawan Obi-Wan is. So I'm putting it in the decent category. And that is whenever Master Qui-Gon attacks out a turn, which he does a lot, they gain a stack of heal over time and protection over time for 2 turns. Inflict the target enemy with protection disruption for 1 turn. Protection disruption is a very, very strong debuff, but I don't think it's game-breaking like the other level 9s this set. So I'm going to put it in the level 9, in the decent category. But moving on, the next one's going to be Morgan Elsbeth. And that is whenever another ally uses a special ability on their turn, Morgan Elsbeth assists, limit once per turn, dealing 50% more damage. I think this is decent, but I don't think, again, it's game-breaking. She is a tank, so she's not going to be doing a ton of damage regardless, but still, being able to assist whenever somebody does a special is pretty strong, or pretty decent, so I will be putting it in the decent category, but nothing game-breaking. And then I have the K2SO and Stormtrooper 1 combined. Like, it's pretty much the same exact Datacron. Removing turn meter is very strong. I don't think it's game-breaking, so I will put it in the decent category. If you guys get it, nice, but not the ones you're going to want to go for compared to the other ones. So it's going to stay in the decent category. Then the next one I have in decent, I don't know if this is controversial again, but I don't think it's as game-breaking as the other one, but whenever Death Trooper Peridia critically hits an enemy, Death Trooper Peridia gains damage immunity for 1 turn, which cannot be copied, 25% turn meter, and blinds that enemy for 1 turn, which cannot be evaded or resisted. If the enemy was target locked, Death Trooper Peridia gains protection up 100% stacking, retribution, and speed up for 2 turns. The reason I have this one in the decent is because there is a what's, in my opinion, stronger level 9 for the Imperial Remnant with Captain Enoch, so that's why it's in the decent category. It's not going to be bad, it's definitely not bad, but it's definitely second place in the set, in my opinion, compared to Captain Enoch. Then the next one we have is Shock T, and that is whenever Shock T attacks out a turn, they recover 20% health and protection, and all allies with Retribution assist, so That's pretty strong, guys. She gives Retribution on a basic, and if all your team has Retribution, that's going to be a Mass Swarm. So I don't think it's going to be insane. I think there are way stronger level 9s for the Jedi, but still it's a decent one, guys. If you get it, you'll find its use, but there are way stronger ones. But that concludes the decent category, and now we're going to move on to strong. Alright guys, moving on to strong, I have 3 that in my opinion are very, very strong this set. First one's going to be Captain Enoch, and that is at the start of battle, and if Captain Enoch is in the leader slot, all other Imperial Remnant allies are immune to critical hits until he is defeated, and he gains 50% max health and protection. Whenever Captain Enoch is critically hit, tank allies taunt for 1 turn. I do think this is going to be the go-to for your Imperial Remnant Enoch team. Being able to force taunts, gaining max health and protection, being immune to critical hits, it's very, very strong, guys, and I do think this is going to be the go-to if you have this team geared and relicked. Next one is, in my opinion, going to be your go-to one for a regular Nightsister team, and that's going to be the zombie one, and that is whenever Nightsister zombie taunts, she gains 10% stacking, no cap, until the end of the encounter, and all other Nightsister allies gain offense up and tenacity up for 2 turns. Whenever Nightsister zombie is defeated, inflict all enemies with healing immunity and buff immunity for 2 turns, which cannot be evaded. That is extremely strong, guys. Nightsisters might be able to take out Jabba way easier with the tenacity. They can't land those thermals. The buff immunity, the heal immunity is very strong. He won't be able to gain those buffs or heal when he does his basic. So Nightsisters might be a way better counter for Jabba this season, and I'm excited to see it. But this is going to be the go-to level 9 for Nightsisters. And then the other one for strong is going to be Eth Koth. And that one is, at the start of the battle, Galactic Republic Jedi allies gain 100% offense and 20 speed and are immune to buff immunity. Eth Koth gains 100% max health and protection. If the leader is a Galactic Republic Jedi, whenever they take damage, Eth taunts and gains foresight until he evades. Whenever Eth evades an attack, he gains 10% turn meter, and all Galactic Republic Jedi allies recover 20% health and protection. Whenever Eth uses a special ability, he gains 10% turn meter, blinds all enemies for 2 turns which cannot be evaded, and all Galactic Republic Jedi allies recover 20% health and protection, and gain protection up for 2 turns. Whenever Eth uses a basic ability, daze target enemy for 2 turns which cannot be evaded. Whenever a Galactic Republic Jedi ally gains foresight, all Galactic Republic Jedi allies gain 20% turn meter and recover 20% health and protection. That's a lot of words, guys. There's a lot going on with this. I do think this is going to be insanely strong. I do think there is a better one than this, but if you have Eth Koth Relict and you got the Lightspeed bundle for the raid, and you get this, might as well use him, guys. This is a very, very strong Datacron, and I still have to figure out where I'm going to put him, whether it's going to be a Keller and Beck team, or even a Queen Amidala team, or Jedi Kenobi, Jedi Master Luke. We still have to play around with all of these things, but it's such a strong Datacron, guys. If you get it, kudos to you. But that's going to conclude the strong category, and now we're going to get into, in my opinion, the OP category. Alright guys, this is going to be the OP category, and that stands for overpowered. I think these are going to be absolutely the ones where you want to go for this. These are the crons that you need in order to do well, at especially high kyber. The first one's going to be POW, and that reads, at the start of battle, all allies, not specific to a faction, all allies gain 100% max health and protection and are immune to healing immunity. Whenever POW assists, he deals massive damage, which cannot be evaded. All allies recover 10% health. Whenever POW uses a special ability, he shocks all enemies for 2 turns, which cannot be evaded. Whenever POW uses a basic ability on his turn, he stealths and gains defense penetration for 1 turn, and inflicts target enemy with offense down for 1 turn, which cannot be evaded. Guys, this is such a strong level 9 because it makes him universal. It's not locked to Rogue One. He could go on a Leia team. I'm sure people are going to come up with crazy theories with putting him with anything. He's going to deal massive damage. He's going to shock enemies. He's going to give his team health and protection and our healing immunity. Very strong, guys. You need to get this. If you have POW Relic, recommend it. If you don't, I would recommend relicking him right now, because this one's going to be insane. The next one in the OP category is going to be Moff Gideon, and this reads, whenever Moff Gideon is inflicted with a debuff or gains a buff, he gains a stack of insight and stealths for 1 turn. Whenever he gains 4 stacks of insight, he gains 100% turn meter, which is very strong. That's practically a bonus turn. Whenever an Imperial or Remnant ally is afflicted with a debuff, they recover 10% health and protection. Very good for banners. Whenever an enemy is inflicted with Armor Shred, blind all enemies for 1 turn, which cannot be evaded or resisted. That means it's going to happen. He does his first special, they're going to get blinded. Then whenever he uses Subversive Volley, he deals bonus massive damage to all enemies, which cannot be evaded. Guys, that is incredibly strong. Incredibly strong. Definitely get this. I think Moff Gideon will work, obviously, with Imperial Remnant, but even without that, he could be using other teams and still be very, very strong. You guys are definitely going to want to get this Kron. Now, let's move on to the next two in the OP category. Okay, guys, to wrap up this review in the OP category, we got 2 more characters, and that's going to be Plo Koon and Luthen Rael. And starting with Plo, at the start of battle, Plo gains 100% defense, 100% max health, and protection. Whenever Plo uses a basic ability, he deals 25% bonus true damage based off his max health, which cannot be evaded. Whenever another ally uses an ability while buffed on their turn, Plo assists. Whenever Plo uses a special ability, stun all enemies for 1 turn, which cannot be evaded. Guys, that's insane. Whenever Plo gains defense up, he gains 5% max health stacking, which is going to be really strong with his basic stacking until the end of the encounter. Whenever defense up expires, he taunts and gains damage immunity for 1 turn, and inflicts ability block to all enemies for 2 turns, which cannot be evaded. Guys, that is so strong. Plo Koon is going to be a staple this year. So I keep saying this season for Grand Arena. You guys got to get this one. It's very strong. Just being able to do bonus true damage, stunning enemies, ability blocks, stacking health. Plo's going to be strong, whether it's on a Kenobi team, Queen Amidala, a Star Killer team. Very, very strong, guys. You got to get it if you have him relative. And then, guys, the next one's going to be Luthen Rael. And I know not a lot of people are going to have him because he's the newest Conquest tune, but it reads, whenever Luthen summons a Rebel Trooper, Axis bonus with Saw. Whenever an ally takes a turn, enemies lose a stack of Explosive Trap. Whenever Explosive Trap detonates, inflict all enemies with protection disruption for 2 turns, which cannot be copied, dispelled, or prevented. Very, very strong, guys. You're going to definitely want to get this one if you have Saw, and if he's got his Omicron, he's going to be insane, guys. So strong. But if you don't have Saw and you have Mon Mothma, the Curator bonus is whenever a Rebel ally trooper or ally is summoned, all Rebel fighter allies gain Repose until the Rebel fighter has been defeated. Whenever an ally attacks at a turn, they deal 35% more damage. Guys, that is so strong. They're going to hit under protection because they're always attacking at a turn, and they're going to deal 35% more protection. Guys, that's all they do is attack at a turn. It's going to be so insane. I think Luthen's going to take out a ton of Galactic Legends. He already is, but he's going to take out way more with this. And if you guys have him, you got to get the level 9. It's going to be so strong. But with that being said, this has been a very long video. My lightsaber died, so that's going to wrap it up. But hopefully you guys found this very useful, and I'm hoping you guys get lucky with the rerolls and are able to farm these Datacrons. I know Datacrons aren't the greatest thing in the world because they're so expensive and they take a long time to grind and then they go away, but it's the way the game is. You got to accept it. You got to use it to do really well in Kyber 1 and Grand Arena. So hopefully you guys enjoy Datacrons. And with that said, if you guys found this useful, don't forget to hit that like button, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel to become a Knight of X. And let me know what you guys think. Do you guys agree with this list or not? I want to hear your opinions, but may the Force be with you all, and good luck in Conquest.